The neon lights of Las Vegas were once the only glow in my world. That radiance, refracted through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Caesar's Palace penthouse, could transform the pitch-black desert night into a surreal, never-ending twilight. It spilled over the stacks of chips on the emerald-green velvet of the gaming tables, reflecting greed, ecstasy, despair, and every shade of human nature in between. Those lights could turn night into day, but they could also, with terrifying ease, reduce a person's sanity and soul to ashes. By 2019, that light I'd once been obsessed with had become a hellfire, scorching me day and night. My name is Alex, and that year my life, or whatever tattered illusion of it remained, began spiraling out of control at a speed I'd never imagined. I used to be a market analyst in LA's financial district, a bit of a name in my circle. I wore tailored Armani suits, strode through high-end office towers and exclusive clubs, and dissected the Dow Jones fluctuations for clients worth hundreds of millions. To outsiders, I was the poster child of the American dream. Ivy League grad, thriving career, limitless potential. But only I knew it was all built on a colossal lie, its foundation eroded to rubble by my gambling addiction. It started a few years back on a business trip to Vegas. After a conference, our client took us to celebrate in the heart of Sin City. I'll never forget the jolt I felt stepping into the casino for the first time, the air thick with high-end cologne, cigar smoke, and the unmistakable scent of money, the crisp, seductive jingle of slot machines spitting out coins. It hit some hidden switch deep inside me. That night, with $500 in chips from the client, I leaned on my self-proclaimed math skills and beginner's luck at the blackjack table, turning it into $5,000. The thrill of a tenfold return, so effortless and immediate, dwarfed the grind of analyzing market data for weeks to earn a client a measly 5%. That night, a poisonous seed was planted. Vegas became my mecca. At first, I went once a month, then every 2 weeks, until eventually, nearly every weekend, I'd fire up my Porsche and tear down Interstate 15 toward that desert mirage. My gambling expanded from blackjack to baccarat, Texas Hold'em, and most addictively, sports betting. Global soccer leagues and NBA playoffs became my entire existence. I obsessed over odds, spreads, and team stats, pouring the analytical skills I'd honed at work into this endless game. I'd stay up all night watching European matches, then chug espressos to fake focus at the office. Sleep deprivation turned my brain to mush when tackling complex financial models. Clients started complaining, my boss's glares grew sharper, and my income took a nosedive. But I was possessed by a terrifying, almost laughably simple obsession. I had to win back everything I'd lost, or I'd never rest. That thought, like a metastasizing tumor, consumed every corner of my mind. I convinced myself that one big bet, one all-in moment, would turn it all around. Soon, I'd burn through my savings. So I turned to credit. With my polished resume and fat bank statements from better days, I easily scored high-limit credit cards and pulled nearly $150,000 from online lenders like Discover and SoFi. To a gambler with bloodshot eyes, that money wasn't real. It was just numbers, fuel for the comeback, ammo for the tables. I started bouncing frantically between online baccarat and sports betting. Sports weren't constant, but those offshore casinos, licensed by some shady island like Curacao or the Philippines, ran 24/7. They were like a monstrous beast lurking in the depths of the internet, jaws wide, waiting for prey like me. That $150,000 vanished faster than desert dew. Some nights, tens of thousands would evaporate in hours. When I'd lost every borrowed cent, the demon inside me took full control. I couldn't accept that my days of dining at Michelin-star restaurants and buying Rolexes on a whim were gone. The only path forward was to double down, bet bigger. To fund it, I tore off the mask of my Ivy League, Wall Street persona and started hitting up anyone I could. First, I targeted colleagues I was friendly with. I spun lies, family emergencies, short-term investment hiccups, even fake insider stock tips. My reputation and position at the firm made it easy to borrow over $30,000. They probably trusted me because I still worked at a prestigious company. Hard to skip town when you're tied to a place like that. I never even thought about repaying them. The money went straight to offshore betting accounts. Next, I preyed on my relatives across California. To them, I was the family's golden boy, destined for greatness. I crafted an elaborate lie about launching a fintech startup with friends, using AI and big data to revolutionize investing. I even faked a slick business plan, painting visions of ringing the NASDAQ bell. My aunts, uncles, and cousins, convinced of my brilliance, handed over their retirement savings and kids' college funds, $150,000 in total. When I got that money, I felt no guilt, just a hunter's thrill. In under a year, my debt snowballed to a staggering $330,000, not counting the crippling compound interest from those predatory online loans. I even pawned my beloved Porsche 911 to a shady dealership for a fraction of its worth, scraping together a final few grand. With that, I flew to Vegas, checked into a Wynn suite, and bet it all on a heavyweight boxing match, backing the reigning champ who seemed a sure thing. But reality landed a brutal knockout. The champ went down in the third round to a wild punch. As the referee counted down, my world collapsed. The casino's noise faded to a dull hum, and I was left in silence. By early 2020, my personal debt crisis erupted like an avalanche, unstoppable and unforeseen. Coincidentally, a global pandemic swept through America with the same ferocity, intertwining my personal tragedy with a broader catastrophe. My life was crushed under their combined weight. Threatening calls and emails flooded in. Polite loan platform reps turned into vicious debt collectors, threatening to expose me to my company and family. A colleague I'd borrowed from sent a WhatsApp ultimatum: repay in a week, or he'd report me to the LAPD for fraud. The pressure coiled around me like a nest of vipers, squeezing until I felt like a balloon about to burst. For the first time, suicide felt vivid and real. I Googled the tallest bridges in California and the least painful ways to go. My unraveling couldn't be hidden from my parents, with whom I lived. They were first-generation immigrants who'd raised me through sweat and sacrifice, running a small Chinese restaurant to put me through an elite university. They noticed I hadn't eaten in over a day, locking myself in my room, gaunt and hollow-eyed, like a husk without a soul. Under their worried probing, my frayed nerves snapped. I broke down, sobbing like a child, spilling everything, gambling, debts, all of it. The $800,000 debt hit them like a nuclear bomb, shattering their calm. My father trembled with rage. My mother collapsed on the couch, weeping. They couldn't fathom how their pride and joy had fallen so far. But once the shock subsided, they faced the problem head-on. They pulled together their life savings, $100,000 meant for retirement, and insisted on first repaying the $30,000 I owed my colleague to keep me out of jail. The rest barely dented the high-interest loans breathing down my neck. Naively, I clung to the hope that I could keep my job and, with my hefty salary, claw my way back. Had I known unemployment was looming, I'd have prioritized repaying my relatives, whose trust and love were worth more than money. After the new year, the company's layoffs hit like the sword of Damocles. The pandemic's economic devastation forced massive cuts, and my name was on the first list. HR called me in, I signed the severance papers, and my office, with its LA skyline view, was no longer mine. I walked out with a cardboard box of personal items, feeling like a fish flung onto dry land, lost and gasping. Unemployment severed my last lifeline. I sank into a pit of depression, anxiety, and sleepless nights, my mind racing through regret and fear. My mother, watching me waste away, became convinced I was possessed by something unclean. She insisted I visit her brother, my Uncle Ben, a Zen master at a retreat center deep in California's San Bernardino Mountains. Uncle Ben's own life was a saga of transformation. In the late 70s, he was a pioneering computer scientist in Silicon Valley, with a thriving software company and a happy family. But at his peak, tragedy struck. His wife, my aunt, suffered severe postpartum depression and schizophrenia. In a psychotic episode, she set their Palo Alto home ablaze, killing herself and their 3-year-old son. Devastated, Ben sold his company, gave away his wealth, and wandered through India and Nepal before settling at this remote Zen center. Over 30 years, his wisdom and insight made him a revered abbot. My worried parents half coaxed, half forced me to the center, a serene haven of simple wooden cabins nestled among pine forests. The air smelled of pine needles and earth, punctuated by birdsong. Ben, in his plain gray robe, greeted me with calm, piercing eyes that seemed to see through my chaos. He didn't pry, just told me to stay for a month, and had my parents take my phone, laptop, and anything connecting me to the outside world. For the first week, Ben didn't counsel or preach. He went about his duties, leading meditations, chanting, leaving me to my thoughts in a small cabin with a window facing the mountains. Meals were Spartan: boiled vegetables, tofu, brown rice, and oatmeal, no oil or heavy seasoning. The center followed a strict no-food afternoon rule, so by evening, hunger gnawed at me, keeping sleep at bay. Time crawled without my phone or internet, forcing me to confront the wreckage of my guilt and fear. A week later, Ben sat me down on the cabin porch with a pot of tea. His stern demeanor softened into a disarming warmth. He asked how I was settling in. I admitted the food was tough, and the nighttime hunger was brutal. The conversation drifted to my crushing debt. His words were few but cut like a scalpel. "Alex, your problem seems to be the debt. $800,000 is no small sum. But the real issue lies deeper. Debt is external. So tell me, where does your pain truly come from?" I was speechless. He continued, "You're in agony not just because of financial debt, but because your heart is in debt too, to greed, desire, vanity, and refusal to let go. People chase status, taking on crippling loans for mansions they can't afford, living in fear of the next payment. Is that happiness? It's a gilded prison. Others chase fleeting thrills, only to invite catastrophe. Was it worth it? Sipping his tea, he gazed at the distant mountains. You must learn contentment. Gambling, debt, casinos, lenders, they didn't ruin you. You did. Your greed, your insatiable desires, your endless pursuit of material things pushed you into this abyss. To climb out, you can't rely on anyone else. It starts with your heart, a brutal, cleansing reconstruction. His words were a lightning bolt, shattering my mental fog. For the first time, I saw my crisis from a new angle. In the weeks that followed, I eased into the center's rhythm. Without devices, my world simplified. Mornings began at 4:30 a.m. with meditation, followed by sweeping the courtyard or polishing the Buddha statues in the temple, their warm glow calming my mind. My anxieties and resentments slowly settled, replaced by a peace I'd never known. The austere life, though tough, was 1,000 times better than the torment of desire and fear. After a month, my parents picked me up. On the drive home, staring at the passing scenery, I replayed the last decade like a movie. I realized gambling was just one of my sins. I'd hurt people with my reckless indulgence, parties, nightclubs, even betraying friends by crossing lines with their partners. Once, a friend caught me and stabbed me in a fight. A thick leather jacket saved my life. Yet I never changed, squandering wins on hedonism and lashing out when I lost. That I was still alive felt like an undeserved gift. Back at my parents' suburban LA home, I powered on my phone. Hundreds of debt collection texts, emails, and missed calls flooded in, yanking my fragile peace back into reality's grip. The pandemic raged on, the economy tanked, and work was nowhere in sight. I was drowning in harassment and despair. My cousin Mark, a practical and kind soul a few years older, saw me wasting away. One day he said, "Alex, you can't keep rotting at home. Move in with me, split the rent. Restaurants are shut, but food delivery's booming. I'm doing DoorDash, making decent money. Instead of spiraling, come work with me. It'll keep you busy, earn you some cash, and tire you out so you don't dwell on the mess. What do you say?" I took him up on it. I moved out, rented a modest apartment with him, and signed up for DoorDash and Uber Eats, starting my life as a delivery driver. At first, I carried all my old bad habits. Lazy and arrogant, I couldn't let go of my elite self-image. I scoffed at low-paying orders or those without tips, cherry-picking premium ones. After a full day's work, I'd barely clear $100 after gas.